Now that we've covered the basics, let's check our understanding by trying to identify the airspace in these columns. We know that A starts at 18,000 MSL, so we'll ignore that. Starting here, what's the airspace? G covers essentially the whole country with E above, so that's a safe bet. G at the ground, but how high? The default is 1200 AGL. And indeed, this is not in a transition area like here, so it would look like this. G up to 1200 AGL and E up to 18,000 MSL. Being in the east end of Myakka State Park doesn't affect the alphabet airspace, but we are asked to avoid overflight below 1500 AGL. How about this one? It's in a transition area, but otherwise is pretty standard. It's G up to 700 feet with E up to 18,000. You could legally do pattern work in Venice with only a mile and clear of clouds as long as you stay below 700 feet AGL. Legal, yes, maybe not so wise. Now it gets a bit more complicated. This is outside the transition area, but within one of the sea shelves. Yes, like nearly all the rest of the country, it's G at the ground. Being outside the transition area, it would normally be up to 1200 AGL, but in this case, it goes to the sea airspace at 1200 MSL. Not that anybody really cares about the few feet. Then it's E up from there to 18,000 MSL. This is the weirdest one. See if you can figure it out. It's inside the transition area and under the sea, so there's an interesting twist. The G only goes up to 700 AGL, leaving a tiny layer of E before getting into the sea at 1200 MSL. Then, of course, C up to 4000 MSL with E above. This one is different in an important way. The important clue are these magenta lines. The answer reveals that those lines mean E starts at the surface. So it's one of a few places where there's no G at the ground. E goes up to the sea at 1200 MSL. C up to 4000 MSL with E above. It's even more obvious with the sea airspace cutaway. Leaving that cutaway makes this last one pretty straightforward. Being within the center area of C also means no G, so it's just C up to 4000 MSL with E above.